Are you an investigative professional? Did you know you can find the best private investigator resources using investigatorstoolbox.com? This resource community was built exclusively for licensed investigators and investigative professionals. You can network directly with members, educate yourself through free webinars and blogs, and even create your own customizable research library. Membership starts for as little as 49 cents a day. Download the Investigator's Toolbox app or visit our webpage at www.investigators-toolbox.com.
I want to talk to everybody today about ScopeNow.com. ScopeNow has been a big-time sponsor of this program for quite some time, and I just love their service. I've been using them since the beginning. I'm one of their beta customers, and it's been so awesome to see them grow into the business that they are today, and just how they just keep reinventing themselves and pushing themselves to get more and more information. What it comes down to is ScopeNow is a tool that you definitely need to use if you do social media investigations, any internet research, and really spending less time digging around and looking for information. I think is one of the best points of how ScopeNow can help you. Their AI platform, their analytics are amazing. You really get an idea of what you need. You're reducing the time, you're reducing the manpower that you're spending on doing this research, because they're essentially doing it for you, and they're doing it correctly, which is most important. One of the new things that they're actually offering is this flagging system where you can flag behaviors and really highlight and look out for fraud. If you're doing a lot of fraud research, this is a fantastic tool, and you can set up alerts. So you have particular people that you're looking at, you can actually set up alerts to get notifications when the criteria that you set up is actually is flagged and goes off. It's really, really amazing. And their relationship and association analytics are top notch, really cutting edge and really, really cool. When they brought that out on version 3, it was a game changer. I mean, really being able to see how people interact together and having that relationship, analysis is really, really something that's cool. One of the other things about being involved with ScopeNow is their ability to offer webinars. Their team is cutting edge on putting together and getting out really, really great content. If you're a member of ScopeNow, if you know who they are, you've seen them around on LinkedIn, you'll know that they're constantly doing webinars on these new websites that are coming out, and they're really staying on top of it. And don't forget, any reports that you generate, you can actually white label those reports and put your own logos on and really make them look professional, which could equate to more billing for you as well. So check them out today. It's www.scopenow.com. They're a great, great company. They should be one of the tools in your toolbox, along with whatever kind of search engines you do. You need to make sure that ScopeNow is a part of that suite. Scopenow.com.
Is a good case management system keeping you from taking your business to the next level? Crosstracks is the premier case management system for the investigative community. They're the only SOC 2 certified case management software available. Visit crosstracks.com, tell them you're a listener, and save even more. Get a plan in place for the new year to grow your business to the next level. Welcome to PI Perspectives. Today, Matt's kicking it old school. We have a solo episode and it's audio only. Matt talks about avoiding burnout. As a business owner or as a field investigator or researcher, burnout is a real danger in this industry. Let's jump right in and tackle this tough topic. Please welcome your host, private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. I want to welcome you to the program. So today we're going old school, or going back to something I haven't done since the beginning, essentially, of doing this program. I'm flying solo here. I'm doing a solo show, and today we're going to talk about how to avoid burnout. I think this is a really pressing topic, something that has kind of been in my heart for a bit, just talking to people coming out of COVID and just dealing with getting busy again and getting back into things. So I wanted to kind of jump on and discuss it a little bit and just give you my perspective on things and things that I'm doing in-house on my own to try and stay ahead of the curve here. I don't know how it is for you guys out there, but it's been incredibly busy for me since things have started up again. I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. It's these are first world problems, and I'm just happy and appreciative and blessed to be able to have work. I wanted to spare you guys the agony of looking at me on video alone. So we're doing no video on this one either. So if you're on the YouTube channel, enjoy the friendly look that I have on my photos, and you're not going to get video. If you're on the podcast, you're like, what the heck is Matt talking about? But it's another story for another day. Let's jump into the topic, burnout, right? So we came out of the pandemic, right? Everybody had to pivot and shelter in place and do what you needed to do to stay afloat. And then, when all that ended and things started opening back up, things like really started opening back up. I don't know about you guys, but the workflow just completely like a waterfall. I was asking myself, like, why did this happen? How did this happen? How are we dealing with this? And I think what it comes down to is a lot of people decided they just didn't want to be private investigators anymore. And I think the market share pretty much has dried up for a bit, and there was this big vacuum of work that needed to be done, and not enough people to do it. I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is that attorneys spend time not working on files, and all of a sudden, okay, when we're back to work now, I got to pick up my files and start doing things. And you had like a year's worth of a file sitting around and things needed to get done. They started doing it again. So that created another big waterfall full of work. So I want to talk also on two different perspectives of this, right? I want to talk on the perspective of the owner of a business, but I also want to talk on the perspective of the everyday worker, like the investigator that's out in the field, because burnout happens in both areas, and trying to be aware of it and stay on top of things. I thought this is a discussion worth having, and just maybe reaching out and giving some pointers on how to do it, right? So, we had this big rush, now we have all these assignments, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, every assignment that comes in today is like a rush assignment. Everybody wants it done yesterday, and we're getting plenty of emails looking for updates on cases and what's the status of this, and it's like, hey, you just gave it to me like 2 or 3 days ago. The status is it's in the queue. So we're dealing a lot with that. Been getting a lot of subpoena work for trials, which I'm not complaining about, right? So trials are happening. People are in court. So that's moving ahead. So that we've seen a big bump of that. Surveillances are taking place again. People are expected to be out in cars looking at other people. So there's been that big push for things to get back out there and do it again. So as a field investigator, it can be really overwhelming, right? You've got the work that needs to be done, and then you've got the reports that have to be done on top of that. And, making sure that you're addressing both in a timely fashion is important, right? If you're working for somebody, you have a caseload. If you can't handle that caseload, they're going to look elsewhere and probably give the work that was earmarked for you to somebody else. If you need to write reports and you're not staying on top of reports, your new assignments will probably go elsewhere as well. I know that's one of the things I look at with my own staff, right? Who's got the assignment? How long are they taking on doing the assignment, and how long is it taking them to produce the reports that go along with it, right? As an owner, you want to clear assignments off the board essentially and bill them out and start collecting. And as a worker, you want the next assignment. You're not going to get the next assignment until the initial assignment is done. So how do you stay on top of that? What's a good way to make sure you don't get overwhelmed and essentially burnt out on things? In my opinion, it comes down to case management. And what does that mean? What does that look like? Well, case management is actually case management software, but there's also the work that needs to be done on top of that. So, organization is key, in my opinion, in this industry, right? If you're not organized, if you're not staying on top of your caseload, it can be quite overwhelming and really stressful, right? For me, it's always been using something like Crosstracks. You guys have heard the ads for Crosstracks. I've had Pat Andrews on. He's talked about the software. I think having something in place like a case management software is really a key for you not getting burnt out. Now you may ask, like, I don't see the correlation. How does that work? Right? So if you're able to keep a handle on the work that you have, the different cases that you're working on, and you're able to communicate with your supervisor or communicate with your client the status of these cases, like it equates to like less stress during your day, right? If you know the work that you need to do, and it's all organized in one place, it's a lot easier for you to clear the plate. I think a lot of folks in our industry tend to be task oriented, right? So if you have some sort of platform where you can, click a button or check a box that the work is done, and maybe set up goals for the next thing that needs to be done, it just makes you more efficient, right? So I think having a really good case management system in place will keep you from being burnt out, because it's just less stressful. I've done the Excel sheets, I've done the Dropbox accounts, I've done all that stuff, and it just doesn't work. I mean, it's good stuff, but it doesn't really work, right? Having a case management system really takes you to that next level. So that's one of the things I really suggest to help you from getting burnt out. Also, like, communication is key. Communicating with your supervisor if you're a field worker, or communicating with your clients if you're a solo practitioner. I know for me, like, when I get those emails saying, "Hey, what's the status of this?" That stresses me out a bit. But if you're communicating that ahead of time to your clients, then you're not really working on it, and they're happy because they have to answer to their clients, right? So a personal injury attorney will have to answer to their own clients that hired them for their cases, right? They're going to want status updates and things like that. So another suggestion here is something called methodology, and we've talked about it. This has been a theme going on with my episodes and the things we talk about with guests for probably the past year or so, right? It's not necessarily the tool that's out there, the new shiny toy. It's more along the lines of how are you doing things, right? So making sure you have a good methodology, practices, policies, procedures, all that in place will help you be better organized. So you're starting to understand my theme here. The better organized you are on things, the less stressed you are, the less chance you're going to get burnt out. That's the whole burnout thing it's real, right? We're all dealing with this. We're dealing with the stress of trying to provide. If you're a small business owner, you're just trying to keep the lights on. And, if you have people that work for you, you're trying to make sure they get paid. These are real big time stressors and things that really can push you over. One of the other things is taking time off, making sure that you're taking mental health time. And as a business owner, it's really tough to do that, right? Because there's always that push, that drive. If you're like me, or you're a type A personality and you just want to get things done, check your box, get it off your list. And, but sometimes you got to have that work-life balance. If you're not doing that, if you're not taking time off, you can find yourself getting burnt out really, really quickly. I know, I recently took a vacation, and it was like my first vacation in 3 years. I mean, I travel a lot. I'm around all over the place, but this was the first time I traveled not for work in a very, very long time. And it was great. It was really great. Did I completely walk away from my business? No. Was I looking at emails every day? Yes. Was I spending probably an hour to 2 hours a day work? Yes, I was doing all that stuff. But I was also unplugging for a good portion of the day, right? So 24 hours in a day, if I'm dedicating 2 of them to time, like work time, I'll take it. That's just the life of a business owner. Now, as an employee, taking that time off is important too. Being able to unplug and really unplug, meaning like not taking your laptop with you, or just not, not responding to emails other than acknowledgments or things like that. Stuff that's time sensitive, but really being able to unplug. I think that's something really important, and something that'll keep you from really burning out. And some of us have been doing this for years and years and years. I know I'm 17 years in business on my own, and I've seen definitely ebbs and flows in workflow. And every time you try and forecast as to when a busy part of your season is, like, it doesn't exist, right? We never know when we're going to be busy and when we're going to be slow. It just kind of happens. At least that's the way it was before COVID. Now I just think it's insanely busy every day, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365. And again, I'm not complaining. I think it's great. I got a great staff working for me, and we're just trying to get it done. And I constantly tell my people that work for me, just do what you can do, right? Do what you can do, as you can do, how you can do it. We can't do more than that, right? And just being sure that we're making time for ourselves as well. If you have a hobby, do it. I like to write music, play music. I make it a point to make sure I do that. And, I like to write as well. I write for PI Magazine and some other articles I've written for other things, right? So I have that creative spirit. Doing this podcast, the Investigator's Toolbox, this other thing that I do, just making sure that I have that diversification on doing things is important. We got to live life, right? If we're not out there experiencing life, if we're always looking at other people and digging into other people's lives, we lose our identities and who we are and what we do. And that's never a good thing. It's fun to have the stories, all the research and the things that we do, but it's also good to have your own life as well. So we got to remember to do that. So we are going to take a quick break. These great sponsors that sponsor the podcast, we want to run a couple ads for them. And when we come back, I want to dig back into this subject and just cover a few more points. I promise you, this isn't going to be an hour's worth of listening to Matt go on and on and on about taking time off and all this other stuff. But I felt this is an important enough issue to talk about just to dedicate an episode to it. So everybody sit tight. We're going to hear from the sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Satellite Investigations is the premier investigation resource in New York State. Founder Matthew Spaier was named PI Magazine's Investigator of the Year. If you need investigative assistance in New York State, visit their site at satellitepi.com. Get results, not excuses. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. The creative professionals of Redline Forensic Studios come to work every day with one goal in mind: to create credible and compelling visuals that help you win tough cases. Redline services, such as video enhancement and animation, are the critical assets you need to leverage your case. Visit the website today at redlineforensic.studio. That's redlineforensic.studio. The latest issue of PI Magazine is available online or via hard copy. Visit pimagazine.com to learn more.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Thanks for sticking around and continuing to listen to the program. I am flying solo today. We are talking about avoiding the burnout, which is a very real thing these days. Prior to the break, we had talked about diversification. We had talked about case management. We had talked about transparency and communication and staying on top and communicating with your supervisors or communicating with your clients and making sure that you're doing that. Understanding how to manage the rush of work that's coming in, prioritizing things, really important. The next thing I want to talk about is just how to keep things fresh as an investigator or a business owner. Like, what are you doing to kind of diversify and making sure that you're on top of things, changing events, things in our industry that are changing, like how are you staying on top of things? I think that's a really good way to kind of stay fresh on things and not really get burnt out. You're not in that monotonous over and over again, same rut. Are you a member of your state association? Are you a member of national associations? Are you attending events? I mean, it's great that we're actually able to meet in person again and do things. I've gone to a couple in-person events. I've participated in some online events. I know the online events are getting harder and harder to participate in. I'm seeing the attendance at these events starting to dwindle. I kind of get it. I mean, we all thought it was great to not have to travel and still get our continuing education and get fed, right, essentially. It was great for a time, but now it's kind of like, I don't know if it's played out or whatever, or there's just been too much content out there. But you're missing that networking aspect. And to me, like, that's something that really I look forward to at these events. Whenever I go to a live event, like, where's the hospitality suite and who's going to be there and who can I catch up with? Like, that's where business gets done at these events, right? It gets done at lunch, it gets done at dinner, it gets done in a hospitality room, it gets done in the after hours events, where you're really forging your relationships. And that's where you can stay on top of trends and how things are changing, right? Going to these events and figuring out what's new and what's out there. Understanding what you specialize in is another good way to stay on top of things, right? When you're networking and you have a particular specialty, let's say you're the best process server out there, right? If you're building on that and getting that reputation for that, you go to these events and you're going to get work out of it, right? If you're a top-notch surveillance guy, if you're the person that always gets the job done and are dependable, you'll get work out of it by going to these things and forming these relationships, right? People want to do business with folks that they know. And that's always good to remember. One of the other things that you can do to avoid the burnout and to make sure you're staying on top of your game here is to plan for your future. And I've talked about this on earlier episodes, but I'm going to cover it again. So one of the things I like to do towards the end of the calendar year is write a goals list. And it's almost like, these are my goals for the following year. These are the things I want to do. And then I'll go back and I'll review from the year before, right? What was on this list? What was I able to accomplish? What did I not get done? What do I have the potential to get done this coming year? Are there new things? Have things changed a little bit? I kind of do like almost like a 360 review of myself and the whole business model. And really getting an accounting of like where I'm at and where I want to go. Doing things like that. I don't know about you guys. Like when I do things like that, I start getting excited, right? It's like, oh yeah, man, I got this done. That was so cool. It was so hard. It was a goal of mine for many years. I crossed that off the list, right? It's like, okay, what's next? So being able to do that, just that self-analysis and being honest with yourself, I think is important as well. Is something that's, it's important. It's helped me. It's helped me plan and just have direction on where I want to go. And always thinking about the exit strategy too, and having that in the back of your mind. When do I want to tap out? How do I want to tap out? I know I was having a conversation with somebody recently about buying their business. Somebody who had been in this industry for 20 plus years and they were done. And we were talking about what would it look like if Satellite Investigations, my business, was to acquire this person's business, right? What kind of book of business did they have? What were they bringing to the table? What were their expectations? Were they going to stick around, or were they going to go off into the sunset? And these were real conversations. And unfortunately for this particular person, like, they just decided they didn't want to be in business anymore or wanted to officially retire like recently. So they weren't laying the groundwork. And when you go and you look at the numbers in the books, right, because that's what you got to do. You got to do analysis. It just wasn't worth what this person thought it was worth. And I can understand why this person thought it was worth a certain amount. It's their baby. They've been running their own business for many, many years. But it would be really hard to buy their relationships without having that particular person involved, and that particular person didn't want to be involved anymore. So it was a tough conversation to have. So, when you're planning and when you're doing things like that, always have your idea of, like, what's your exit strategy? How are you going to get your foot out the door? Are you going to sell completely, or are you going to have somebody run your business? And if you are a field investigator and you're working for somebody, what's your end goal? Do you ever see yourself as a business owner? Do you ever see yourself working for yourself, or are you somebody that's just going to, just be an employee for somebody and maybe work your way up within that particular business to handle a more of a supervisory role or management role? You should be asking yourself that question every year. What am I doing, and where do I want to go, and what's the end goal? And listen, there are factors that are involved with that. Family is always a thing. I remember I had a conversation with another person. We were talking about possibly opening another division of my business and having this person come in and run a portion of that business. And to them, something that was really important to them was working less and spending more time with their children. Their children were in high school or getting ready for college, and they didn't have many years left with them. And they wanted to be able to spend more time with them, right? Before they were graduated from college, getting married, having their own family and things like that. So they wanted to have that flexibility. It was something that was really, really important to this particular person. And I totally get it. I'm a parent, and my kids aren't that old yet, but it's definitely something that's in the back of my mind when I start thinking about future. And it's important to do life, especially with your family, and be there for events. And as investigators, sometimes if we're not careful, we don't have the time to do any of that stuff because we're too busy trying to manage our things, and everything's a rush. And I got a call today for somebody who's looking to have work done over the weekend. It's Mother's Day this weekend, right? They weren't looking for me to do the work. They weren't looking for any of my employees, but they were looking for somebody to do executive protection work. And it's like, okay, well, now you're asking somebody to go work on Mother's Day. The chances are they're probably married, and that would be a tough pill to swallow, having to work. But these are realities, right? Things that come up. So, getting back to the idea here, just, planning for your future. Where do you see yourself as an owner or as an employee? What's the long-term goal? And factoring in like what's important to you. Always asking that question. Like what is important to me? What are my expectations? Where do I see myself going forward? Like these are all real questions, right? If you are former law enforcement and you're getting out and you're just looking to start your business now, like what are your expectations on growth? How much effort do you really want to put in to doing this? Are you looking for a full-time gig, or are you looking for per diem? I had met some guys recently in Queens and Long Island where it was like a group of retired law enforcement guys, and all of them, they just want per diem. They don't want to own a business. They don't want to work full-time for anybody. It's like they're getting their pension, they're doing their thing, and if you got some work that's around their neighborhood, yeah, they'd be interested in getting involved and taking that up, right? So it's an interesting business model. And it wasn't an idea like you'd be hiring one person specifically. They're a group of guys, a whole bunch of them that this is what they do. And if one guy's not available, maybe another guy is. And that's kind of how they're running their thing. So interesting, different way of running things. And they're doing their own thing and they're making it work, which is pretty cool. More power to them. So I think one of the other things that you want to think about is getting help when you need to get help. That is a real quick way to get burnt out when you try and do everything yourself. And if you are that solo investigator or you have a small shop, it's really hard. I get it. Like to give work out to 1099 other people, and your margins are less. You're not making as much money, and you can do everything yourself. I know hiring that office support, that an operations manager or a bookkeeper or someone to do collections for you. Like, why would you pay somebody money to do this when you can do it yourself? I get it. I was in that boat for many years. One of the best decisions I made was to bite the bullet and hire somebody to do it, and somebody who's really good. And now it's one less thing for me to do, and now I've got great field investigators working for me. It's one less thing for me to do. So as the owner, like, what is my role? My role is diminishing quickly, and that's the way it should be, right? So you get up and you start the brand, you build a brand, you get a great reputation, and then you start replacing yourself. That's really the key to everything, folks. Build a business, make yourself the hottest person, the hottest business in town, the one that everyone wants to do business with, and then you remove yourself from it. That's the advice that I can give you. And either you stick around, have folks run the business with you, and you kind of reduce your role as the owner, or you sell your business to somebody when you reach that point. I mean, really, at the end of the day, if we're a business owner, we're in business to be in business, and you have to take a look at it that way. And it's tough. That transition is really tough. It took me many, many years to get my clients used to the idea that I'm probably not the guy that's going to be doing your work anymore. And almost like I really hesitate taking assignments for me to do personally, because I know that I'm pulled in like 5 different directions right now, and it's hard to guarantee that great level of service if they're using me and not using one of my associates. And my associates are great. Like I don't think there's going to be a drop in service. But sometimes it's just the idea of like, oh, the owner of the business, that's who we want doing our work. You got to get people out of that mindset and into the mindset of, you're going to have a dedicated investigator or a dedicated researcher who's going to knock it out of the park for you. That's something that's new for my business this year, the whole researcher thing. There was a time that my field investigators were doing research also, and it was a struggle. Do I want them on the road, or do I want them in front of a computer? They're good on both aspects. I could do it either way. But at the end of the day, a field investigator is a field investigator, and a researcher is a researcher. So you should really separate those roles and let somebody run either way with them. Whatever they're good at, whatever their strengths at, you should let them do that. So I think we're going to wind down here. I think that's pretty much my 2 cents on this stuff. I hope you guys found it useful. I hope it's a half hour of your life that you didn't waste, and there's no getting it back. So I did want to come on. It's been in my heart really to kind of talk about this stuff. So I appreciate the audience, and again, I hope you found it helpful, and we'll get back into our regular schedule of guests in the next coming weeks. I got some great guest lines up, actually. I'm excited. In fact, this year we've had some amazing guests. How cool is Scott Walker? If you did not listen to that episode, please go back and listen to it. That was so much fun. And I realized as I was listening to it this week that we were talking about Star Wars and his background of being exposed to all those people, and it was May the 4th. So the episode aired on May 2nd, but it was the week of May the 4th, so I thought that was pretty cool. So anyways, now I'm babbling here. I'm probably burning you out with you listening to me go on and on. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate all the support. Thanks for tuning in this week. Again, I hope you found it helpful, and we'll catch everybody next week on the next show.
Thanks for tuning in and listening to this week's episode. We hope you found it useful and made you think about how you approach your workflow. We'd like to thank Crosstrack, Scope Now, PI Institute for Education, Redline Forensics, and Satellite Investigations for sponsoring this show. So please support our great supporters and check out the Investigator's Toolbox It's time to get on board and join the fastest growing digital community for investigative professionals. Just use code PIP201836 to save 10% on your membership. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthew@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with a new show. So make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.